In 2012, a trailer dropped on the web, a proof-of-concept teaser for a potential web series mysteriously dubbed RWBY. Then a few months later, the first episode dropped. And since that time, RWBY has become one of the biggest web series to ever grace the internet, having a massive explosive appearance and reactions from the online community, and very quickly gained a large fan base. And now, 6 years later, with 6 seasons under its belt, and to celebrate the release of Volume 7 later this week, we here at BingeTV will answer if RWBY is worth binge watching. So, small side note, due to how vastly different seasons 1 and 3 are compared to 4 and 6, we'll be splitting this review up into 2 parts. So right now we'll be covering volumes 1 to 3, while later on we'll post our review of volumes 4 and 6. So without further ado, let's get into the review. In a world teeming with monsters and corruption, we follow the adventures of young huntresses in training Ruby Rose through 1 whole year of her training at the esteemed Beacon Academy. But as time goes on, Ruby and her friends soon catch wind of an evil plot set to destroy the Kingdom of Vale. The first 3 seasons play off from one another, usually with the events from the previous season happening just before the new one, and focuses more on character development rather than world building. We'll get to that soon. The first season is more fragmented when it comes to the story, more so shenanigans that the students get into. But by season 2, a more consistent linear story starts to unfold, as Team RWBY tries to investigate unusual activity within the kingdom. And season 3 mainly surrounds the Vital Festival through a tournament arc, up until the halfway point though. But one thing that each chapter seems to lack is the sense of time. No real signature is given to communicate the passage of time between episodes. Season 1 takes place within the time span of 4 months, yet there's no real significant change to address it, making events between episodes feel like they happen within a week rather than a month. The tone in the first 3 seasons gradually evolve. We start off light-hearted and quippy, characters crack jokes, and treat quite threatening situations lightly. But as the series progresses, dark themes are presented, and changes of tone is definitely prominent, with characters being more serious, telling less jokes, and treating battles with more care and calculation. RWBY, a young naive character whose heart is in the right place, but her childlike attitude gets her into trouble every now and again. She states multiple times how she doesn't need people around her for support, but as the season progresses, we see her become more acquainted with the people around her. Weiss is a perfectionist. We often see this in the first season when she's constantly correcting people around her, and she does pressure herself to an extent to be the best she could be. Her character isn't someone who looks at imperfections with much grace, as she usually looks down on people who aren't as skilled or educated as her. But like RWBY, as the series progresses, her character starts to become more accepting of not only her own missteps, but the imperfections of the people around her. Blake is a bit of a tortured soul, complacent and doesn't really talk much, but like the other members of Team RWBY, opens up a bit and shares her burdens later on. Yang probably has the least amount of character development, almost in the same vein as RWBY, but from seasons 1 to 3 she remains a bubbly, cruelly comedic member of the team, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have any great moments. I would go further into details, but I'm afraid that might lead into spoiler territory. Yes, I'll be talking about the members of Team Juniper, but no one else after this. John probably goes through the most amount of change in the first 3 seasons. He isn't as strong or coordinated as everyone else around him, but he's one good strategist, and the series does make sure to showcase that as his major strength. Pyrrha is a prodigy amongst the cast, a star athlete who had the reputation before entering the school. She often struggles with making meaningful relationships. Hell, this is proven when Weiss first approached her, and was made more prevalent in season 2. Ultimately, she's pretty much a model example of what a huntsman is supposed to be. Honorable, humble, brave, etc. Lee Ren and Nora Valkyrie bounce off each other a lot. One can argue that their two has of one character, as when you have one of them, the second soon follows. Ren is mainly quiet, giving small pieces of advice, every now and again, trying to push his teammates a little further. Nora is a chaotic other half, loud, obnoxious, and a little violent at times. Throughout the series, these two remain entwined, and kind of act more so as a single character rather than two. Wherever Ren is, Nora is soon to follow, and vice versa. Since the first season, a clear improvement of quality can be seen. Season 1 suffered a lot, whether it was simple direction of the voice actors, poor timing between actions, and simple animations like walking or other small interactions do seem messy. But the animation gets better as the series progresses, and the characters gog around less and actually, well, move. Same can be said about the voice acting. Though RWBY's reverse puberty is something that should be looked into, and a little abuse of continuity are quite consistent between seasons, but garner no real need for attention. But the one area that this show definitely excels is in the fight animations. Beautifully choreographed, with no moments of pause, keeping the continuous but violent momentum of movement going. When the characters wield their weapons, they actually feel like an extension to said character. Like with RWBY, using crescent rows to help her pull away from close quarters or get herself right into the fray. Weiss using multitudes of dust never seems misplaced, and the line blurs between significantly on whether she's using dust or her semblance. Though this could make moments where the character gets her abilities underwhelming, like when Weiss was able to successfully bring forth her glyphs, which she states she had trouble summoning earlier in Season 3. As for the music, the original score from Jeff and Casey Lee Williams is really good. It certainly enhances some moments in the series, and one cannot simply feel excited when the main theme starts playing. While the series does a good job at presenting the world, the show does have a side series called World of Remnant, which seems redundant as it explains most of the lore and functions of the world. Even though some facts have or would be stated within the show, key examples would be the CCT and the Four Maidens, the series also serves as a bit of an annoyance. One can argue it acts like a buffer for the animators, but for one whole week of waiting for the next big episode, it does get annoying when the week-long wait is met with the World of Remnant segment. While the series does have nice visuals, it's not essential to watch them at all. Another thing to discuss has to be the monster designs. The creatures of Grimm for the first season are alright, with interesting face mask designs on their heads and strict color scheme of orange, yellow, red, black, and white. They do stand out to the colorful cast of characters we're used to, and most, if not all, Grimm in the series are based on creatures in Norse and Greek mythology, like the Ursas, Beowulfs, and Nevermores. However, the creature designs do seem generic at times. The Nevermore and Borbatusk and the Borbatusks serve nothing really interesting, while others, like the Grim Wyvern and Beowulfs, are pretty eye-catching. Hopefully later on we'll see some Grimm based on other mythologies, possibly based on Native American myths, or even Japanese legends. While the first season does have its problems, whether shoddy animations or QC issues with the voice actors, it does improve. The characters are relatable, which is essential for shows like this, and the concept of combining sci-fi with fantasy elements is done extremely well, to the point where the two interact really well. RWBY Seasons 1 to 3 is worth checking out. The missteps in early seasons are looked to by the creators and get vastly improved on the season after. Initially watching Season 3 left my jaw on the floor. The change of tone from Season 1 compared to 3 is night and day. Montium and his original creative team truly made something special. A vast world with fascinating mythology and interesting but relatable characters inhabiting. And it's that reason I'm giving RWBY Seasons 1 to 3 a rating of amazing. An absolute recommend for both animation students and pseudo-anime fans alike. And yeah, that's our review for RWBY Seasons 1, 2, 3. Make sure you stick around for Volumes 4 and 6, and we'll be sure to check out RWBY Volume 7 once it's fully released. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. See you all next time.